calling this 2-day meeting an Anticonference. For me, it feels a bit like people are meeting in my living room, having a conversation in a sort of informal way. But our goal, again, is to really think about new ways of being together and working together. And in that spirit, you'll notice that the format of this Anticonference is really trying to find other ways for us to exchange.
So what Antiracism Inc. tries to do is to figure out what is the racial economy of our time. How does race function as a social force? How does this biological and anthropological fiction come to function as a social fact? And we try to develop practices, processes, and programs that would produce racial justice in this society.
The law is not a text, it's a practice. And it's a contested and negotiated practice that has to be pushed. And it has to be pushed not only in the courts, but through litigation, legislation, education, agitation. That this is the new social sphere that needs to be created around these things to make anti-racism have a meaning other than, helping a few exceptional people.
It assumes that the word intersectionality transparently encapsulates all arguments that have used it, regardless of sources, contexts of meaning, and histories of use. It treats issues of politics as if they were in fact propositions of logic or language. And perhaps most evident here today, it treats the word intersectionality as infinitely malleable and changeable.
I really feel like single-handedly the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. helped to facilitate one of the greatest experiments in the appropriation of anti-racist ideology and progressive political structure. So precisely this very insidious process of incorporation.
Our post-racial moment brings with it certain kinds of heightened racial visibility that the broader anti-racism project needs to grapple with. So one way to think about this is to think of the mobilization of diversity as a disciplining project, to use Allison's language, or what Chandan talked about as a post-racial multiculturalism, where he said race is recognized in order to be made post-racial.
Anti-racism itself is becoming a technology of power, a means to claim legitimacy at a moment of crisis. It has a brand value and it can be monetized. Even think of Donald Sterling, the Clippers owner, like essentially buying awards from the NAACP. Like for him, even in his own kind of very gross way, these awards have a value, right? Like to be able to hold them up.
It's been a really productive and generative and exciting event, and also it's produced a collective of people who are in conversation with each other from different institutions who are going to be able to let this conversation grow at their home institutions and to take it different places and to bring it into their classrooms. It's about trying to bring into existence and to bring into visibility the contours of what can look like a different kind of struggle.
Students, not criminals, I heard. Students, not criminals. Just as the police in riot gear made manifest the violence that capital only allows to rear its head once it's directly challenged, I want to consider whether the ways in which we articulated that challenge also revealed the investments that bound us together.
Performance then can be equally attendant to the weight of history, memory, and trauma, and the necessity of utopian visions, those freedom dreams that resound in the body. Against the counter-revolution, against social justice movements, performance calls communities into being. Shange continues to collaboratively reimagine and enable other visions of collective sociality and healing.
We have the challenge ahead of us of trying to understand how to start producing more complex stories of texture and worlds of power in the so-called period of freedom, because that's one of its most effective ways of destroying oppositionality.
But in fact, what we have to do is be committed to a permanent methodology of resistance. Not just any resistance, because of course you could resist in the service of capitalism, but in the service of abolition democracy, which is this chaotic realm that we don't know actually what liberation looks like. It has to constantly be reinvented. Because the thing keeps reinventing its oppression and the form in which it will deliver that. So we're here to essentially figure out how do we create new language, new practices through which to fight racism systemically and institutionally. And I think what's been so absolutely magical today has to do with the ways that the poetic interventions and then the scholarly language and conceptualization are working together in this beautiful alchemy to open up our minds to produce kind of a larger, more capacious notion of the imaginary around freedom and around liberation and around what that looks like inside the context of how we're living today. So it's been an incredible experience.
So to start with ourselves and thinking about how oppression is perpetuated in our own bodies and works against us, and then looking at interpersonal relationships as a place to start to think about organizing on a broader scale, but bringing it back to that personal dimension and all of the incredible poetic workshops, moments and spaces in which we all just looked at each other, talked with each other, we spoke with each other about these really, really fundamentally, transformative ideas about love and about revolution, about what the struggle looks like, about how it's unending, but how the struggle is itself the transformation. To sit with each other and to grapple with those legacies and realities, to look each other in the eyes and speak from a place of realness.
I'm really interested in ways that we can expand this and replicate it and make this what a classroom looks like, and make this what a lecture looks like, and make this what a Wednesday looks like. And that being said, I'm incredibly moved by the uniqueness of this experience, continually blown away by people's courageousness and bravery and saying who they are and how they feel in a moment of rawness and being willing to receive love of others.
Mostly amazed by how willing everyone was to participate in a more experimental format that included poetry, that included personal testimony, that included a virtual Skype participant, that included a lot of different voices and a lot of different ways of sharing ideas and participating in the conversation. A spirit of solidarity is something that I can't say is completely unexpected, but it's certainly one of the most moving aspects of what's happened over these past 2 days that I will really never forget.
What does love help you shape as the vision of victory? And we know it's not going to be over by the time we're dead, but that's okay. We have to have a vision, right? Or otherwise we're just kind of indulgence.
You're doing the study and kids in Oakland, they're now saying, oh, they have post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, they're tired. You know, what happens when us, the recipients of all this wonderful discourse and things that you guys are doing, what happens when we get tired? What happens when the chipping away at these things and these smaller victories are not benefiting us in our daily lives?
I feel like I'm being pushed down an assembly line, a conveyor belt, a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter justice once built to help that just grew careless through habit and practice.
People who aren't in the business of making a profit off of recidivism, people who are not in the business of labeling, but of encouraging by listening, by empowering, by getting to know who she really is. Some good people who are in the business of reminding her what is worth it and not giving up.
This is a space where things are felt. This is a space where things are unfelt. I'd like to unarticulate every feeling I ever had. Is that what it would mean to be a Buddhist? Is that what it would mean to be born again? Yeah. Born a believer?
No rags to riches, no bootstrap pulling, no heteronormative patriarchal finish. A story with this face is a trick, because it refuses to be redeemed. And if it's told with attention to those long experiences, those long fetches of history, it is not one to be appropriated either.
Shalardis once said, you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. See, water, him no get enemy. What to buffalo soldiers move through the land with the intensity of a tsunami be water, my friends.
But how much have we changed? It's a new technology, same old game. Maybe we're all just blind to see that the world is playing on you, the tricks is scheming on me.
I am the element of surprise, the black-white elephant in the room, the beauty and the pain of Ella Fitzgerald's tune. I'm naturally channeled to channel your television assumes it suits me fine for